Why has my son gotten so thin?
He's just on a diet. In that single moment, I knew I hadn't welcomed a daughter into my family, but a monster who was feeding on his life. If you want to see how this monster starved my son while spending his money on her lover, and how this mother unleashed hell to get revenge, click that like button below and be sure to subscribe.
My name is Helen, and for 74 years, I believed that the heart of a family was built on devotion, on the simple, unspoken truths of love and sacrifice. I thought I could spot a lie a mile away, could see the darkness in a person's soul as easily as I could spot a coming storm on the Ohio horizon. But the devil, I've learned, doesn't come to you with horns and a pitchfork. It comes dressed in a warm smile, bearing homemade apple pie, and calling you, Mom. The story I'm about to tell is a difficult one, but it's a story of how a family's deepest bonds were tested by the cruelest kind of betrayal. If you're ready to hear how we fought back, please take a moment to subscribe, like this video, and click the notification bell so you don't miss how it all unfolds. The woman who would shatter my world and drain the life from my son didn't storm into our lives. She was welcomed with open arms, a wolf we invited to sit at our own dinner table. Her deception was a slow-acting poison, and by the time we saw the symptoms, the sickness had already taken root deep in the heart of our family. For most of my life, things were simple. My husband, Robert, and I carved out a life from the rich soil of rural Ohio. We raised cattle, grew corn, and measured our wealth not in dollars, but in the sweat of our brows and the laughter that filled our modest farmhouse. We raised 2 children, a son, Michael, and a daughter, Sarah. They were good kids, filled with the kind of fundamental decency that comes from knowing the value of a hard day's work. They were our pride, our legacy. Michael, my son, was always the ambitious one. He had a mind as sharp as a tack and a drive that couldn't be contained by our county line. After graduating top of his class from Ohio State, he landed a prestigious job at a big investment firm in Columbus. I'll never forget the day he left for his first day of work. He stood in our kitchen, his frame, usually clad in flannel and denim, looking almost foreign in a crisp, dark suit. "Well, look at you. My boy, the investment banker." I fussed with his tie, my calloused fingers clumsy against the smooth silk.
"Mom, I can do it."
He said it with a gentle, embarrassed smile. Sarah, ever his rival and biggest fan, came bounding down the stairs.
"Wow, Mikey, you clean up nice. I told all my friends my big brother was going to be a Wall Street hotshot. You better remember us little people when you're swimming in cash."
"It's Columbus, Sarah, not Wall Street. And don't worry, your first big shopping spree is on me after my first paycheck."
He kissed my cheek, clapped his father on the shoulder, and walked out to his car, stepping out of our world and into his. Robert and I watched him drive away, a plume of dust rising from the gravel road. It felt like watching a part of your own heart drive off, filled with both pride so immense it could burst your chest, and a quiet, gnawing ache of letting go. Michael worked tirelessly, climbing the corporate ladder with a determination that made us proud. He was a good son, never forgetting where he came from, calling every Sunday and driving down for holidays, his city life a stark but welcome contrast to our quiet existence. Then, a few years after he started his career, he came home on a weekend that wasn't a holiday. He had a young woman with him, a pretty girl with wide, earnest eyes named Jessica. They stood before Robert and me in the living room, shifting their feet on the worn oak floorboards. And then, Michael dropped the bomb. He took Jessica's hand, and they knelt before us.
"Mom, Dad, I'm going to marry Jessica. We're going to have a baby."
The words hung in the air, thick and heavy. A baby. My son, just 26, barely a foothold in his career, was going to be a father. Robert's face was a stone mask, his jaw tight. I felt a cold knot of worry in my stomach. A shotgun wedding. It wasn't what we had envisioned for him. But then I looked at Jessica. She was a preschool teacher, she explained softly, her voice filled with a sweet sincerity. She looked up at Michael with such adoration, and I saw the resolve in my son's eyes. He loved her. This was his choice, his life. We had raised him to be a responsible man, and this was his first great test. So, we gave them our blessing. I had my reservations, of course. City girls, in my experience, didn't always understand our way of life. But Jessica seemed determined to shatter every one of my prejudices. The first time they came to visit after the wedding, I was heading out to the barn to feed the chickens.
Helen, let me come with you. I've always wanted to see a real farm up close. Can I help?
Oh, honey, you don't need to do that. You're pregnant. You should be resting your feet.
Nonsense. A little fresh air is good for the baby. Besides, I can't stand sitting still. I'll go crazy.
She followed me out, her bright sundress a splash of color against the weathered gray of the barn. She wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty, laughing as she scattered feed for the clucking hens. She asked endless questions about the farm, her curiosity genuine and her charm disarming. She wanted to learn how to make my strawberry preserves, how to tell when the tomatoes were perfectly ripe. She seemed to embrace our world with an open heart. A few months later, she gave birth not to one, but to 2 healthy babies. Twins. A boy, Liam, and a girl, Chloe. The moment I held them, any lingering doubts I had about their unconventional start melted away. They were perfect. Our family, which had felt complete, suddenly expanded to hold a new, boundless joy. My daughter, Sarah, was utterly smitten.
Oh, Jessica, look at his little cheeks. They're so chubby. Listen, anything you need for them, you just tell me. I'm their aunt, it's my official duty to spoil them rotten.
Jessica became the daughter I never had. She made our family feel whole. Even after the twins were born, she made a point to drive down with them often. One scorching summer afternoon, Robert and I were out mending a long stretch of fence on the back pasture. It was hot, grueling work. Just as we were about to break for lunch, we saw Jessica's car bumping along the dirt track towards us. She got out, wearing a pair of my old overalls over her shorts and a wide-brimmed sun hat, wrestling a large cooler.
Dad, Mom, time for a break.
What are you doing all the way out here, sweetheart? We were just about to head in.
I know, but I figured I'd save you the trip. A working man needs his fuel.
She opened the cooler. Inside were thick roast beef sandwiches, a big bowl of potato salad, and ice-cold bottles of beer. Robert's face broke into a wide, delighted grin.
Well, I'll be. My favorite beer. How did you know, girl?
A good wife knows to take care of her men. And Michael told me you have a soft spot for this brand. Now, eat up. I'll bring you more when you're ready.
She had a way about her, a warmth that filled every corner of our lives. Laughter followed her wherever she went. The children were a delight, bright and kind. They adored their father. One of their favorite things to do when they visited was to walk through Michael's old elementary school.
So this is where you went to school, Daddy?
This is it, buddy. It's a lot smaller than your school, huh? But I had some of the best times of my life in these hallways.
Wow, it's so cool. Grandma said you were super smart when you were a kid.
I want to be smart just like you, Daddy.
Jessica would watch them, a proud, playful smile on her face.
Hey, what about me? You don't want to be like your mom at all?
Liam would rush to her side, hugging her leg.
Of course I do, Mom. You're the prettiest, and you're nice, and you make the best macaroni and cheese in the whole world.
Watching them together, this beautiful little family my son had built, felt like a blessing. After the kids started elementary school, Jessica opened her own preschool. It was a huge success. She had a natural gift with children. And even with her busy career, she never neglected us. When Thanksgiving rolled around, she would be the first to call, coordinating the entire meal, insisting on bringing half the dishes herself. She'd arrive with perfectly roasted turkeys, elaborate side dishes, and pies that tasted like they were made by an angel. She'd wrap a slice of warm pumpkin pie with extra whipped cream just for me.
You're the queen of this family, Helen. You get the first piece.
She'd then cut a generous slice for Robert.
And for the king.
Those were the golden years. Our home echoed with the sound of our grandchildren's laughter, the happy chatter of our children, and the easy warmth of a family that felt unbreakable. We were happy. We were whole. I looked at my son, a loving husband and father, and my daughter-in-law, the perfect wife and mother, and I thanked God every single day for the beautiful life He had given us. It was a picture of perfect harmony, a life so idyllic I never once thought to look for the cracks hidden just beneath the surface. Of course, the golden years, like the setting sun, can't last forever. They fade into twilight, and then into a darkness you never saw coming. For a long time, our lives continued on that blissful trajectory. Liam and Chloe grew from chubby-cheeked toddlers into bright, accomplished teenagers. They were high school seniors, both on the honor roll, both with bright futures ahead of them. Liam was the spitting image of his father, steady and serious, while Chloe had Jessica's sparkling charm and a wit all her own. Our family gatherings were still loud, happy affairs, a testament to the life Robert and I had built and the wonderful family Michael and Jessica had created. But happiness can make you complacent. It can blind you to the subtle shifts, the tiny, hairline fractures that appear before the foundation crumbles. The first crack appeared on a crisp autumn Sunday. Michael had driven down for the day, alone. Jessica, he said, had a commitment with her preschool, and the kids were buried in homework and college applications. He walked into the kitchen, and my heart gave a little lurch. The vibrant, energetic man who had left our home all those years ago was gone. In his place stood a man who looked worn thin, as if life were sandpaper against his soul. His expensive suit, which usually looked so sharp, hung loosely on his frame. "Michael, you're skinny as a rail. Aren't they feeding you in the city?" I tried to keep my tone light, but the worry was a thick knot in my throat. He forced a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. There was a faint, unhealthy yellow tinge to his skin, most noticeable in the whites of his eyes. Jaundice. The word flashed in my mind like a warning light. "You look tired, son. You have a touch of jaundice?"
It's nothing, Mom. Just been working long hours, a lot of client dinners. You know how it is.
That's no excuse. Look at you, you're just picking at your food. He was pushing the slices of my pot roast around his plate, the one he used to devour. He who used to eat 2, sometimes 3 helpings, was now looking at his plate like it was a chore.
I guess I'm just not that hungry. The stress of the job, it gets to you. Don't worry about me.
But I did worry. A mother always knows. When he left that evening, I watched him get into his car, and the confident stride of my successful son had been replaced by the weary shuffle of an old man. It was a sight that would haunt my sleep for weeks. I kept telling him to see a doctor, but he always had an excuse. He was too busy, it was just a passing bug, he'd go next week. The weeks turned into a month, then 2. Then, one Tuesday night, the phone rang long after we'd gone to bed. A phone call after 10 p.m. never brings good news. I saw Michael's name on the caller ID and my blood ran cold. "Michael, is everything okay?" There was silence on the other end, punctuated by a choked, ragged breath. It was the sound of a man trying not to break.
"Mom, did I wake you?"
"Your voice, what is it? What's wrong?" And then, the dam broke. He sobbed, not the quiet tears of a grown man, but the gut-wrenching, heartbroken sobs of a little boy.
"I went to the doctor, Mom. Like you said, they ran some tests."
He paused, struggling to get the words out.
"It's bad. My liver, they call it end-stage cirrhosis. It's from all the years of drinking with clients, the stress. I didn't listen. I should have listened to you, Mom. I'm so sorry.
End stage. The word echoed in the silent bedroom. It was a death sentence. My strong, invincible boy. My mind reeled, a torrent of denial and panic. This couldn't be happening. Not to my Michael. After I hung up, I immediately called Jessica, expecting to console a hysterical wife. Instead, she was the picture of calm strength.
Oh, Helen, I know. It's just awful. But don't you worry. I'm right here by his side. We will fight this together. I will do everything in my power to make him healthy again. I promise.
Her voice was thick with unshed tears, but resolute. In that moment, I was flooded with gratitude. Thank God, I thought. Thank God he has her. The next day, I went to the bank and transferred $5,000 to her account. Jessica, this is for you. Use it to buy the best organic foods, whatever you need. Don't worry about money. Just focus on taking care of my son.
Oh, Helen, you don't have to do this. But, thank you. This will help so much. I'll make sure he eats only the best, I swear it.
She sounded so sincere, so devoted. I hung up the phone feeling that, even in this nightmare, we were a strong family unit, united in our fight for Michael. But the nightmare was only just beginning. Less than a month later, Jessica called me again, her voice frantic.
Helen, I don't know who else to turn to. My brother, he had a terrible accident at his construction business, and he's uninsured. The hospital bills are astronomical, and if we don't pay, they'll seize his company. He needs $30,000.
$30,000. It was a fortune. A part of me, a small, cold voice, wondered why her brother had no savings, no insurance. But Jessica was already crying, her voice breaking.
We could take out a loan, I guess, but the interest rates are so high, and with Michael's medical bills coming. I just don't want to add another monthly payment. I'm so sorry to ask, Helen, I'm so embarrassed, but could you possibly lend us the money? I swear, I'll pay you back before the end of the year.
Her logic, twisted as it was, made a sick kind of sense. Better the money go to family than to a bank in interest. Money that could be used for Michael. Robert and I talked it over. It was a huge chunk of our retirement savings, but for our son, for the stability of his family, we agreed. I wired the money, my stomach churning with a feeling I couldn't quite name. Then came the call about the twins.
Helen, you know Liam and Chloe are getting their college acceptance letters. It's so wonderful, but it's all happening so fast. With the tuition deposits and dorm fees, and since there are 2 of them, everything is double. It's just a lot, on top of everything else.
She didn't ask for money directly this time. She didn't have to. It was a masterful performance of a struggling mother trying to hold it all together. How much do you need, Jessica? We paid. For our grandchildren's future, how could we not? We believed we were helping a family in crisis, shoring up the walls against the flood. We had no idea we were just pouring our life savings into a black hole. My unease grew with each passing week. I would call to check on Michael, but it was always Jessica who answered, reporting that he was resting, or that he was too weak to talk. My own son was becoming a stranger to me. One evening, feeling desperate to see his face, I decided to FaceTime him. To my surprise, he answered. The sight of him shocked me. He was in a dimly lit room, looking gaunt and pale. And he was eating. He was slurping noodles from a disposable cup, with a half-eaten sandwich on a paper towel next to him. Michael, what are you eating? Is that instant ramen? Where is Jessica? Didn't she cook you a proper dinner? He looked away from the camera, a flicker of something, shame, maybe, in his eyes.
Mom, it's fine. Jessica had a parent-teacher night at her school. She had to go out for a bit. I was craving this, honestly. After eating all that healthy stuff, sometimes you just want some junk food, you know?
But I didn't know. His voice was hollow, his excuse flimsy. This wasn't a man enjoying a guilty pleasure. This was a sick man, a man whose wife I had given thousands of dollars to for his care, eating instant noodles alone in the dark. The image burned itself into my mind. I ended the call, my hand trembling. The beautiful picture of the perfect family, the loving wife, the supportive home, it was starting to fade. And in its place, something ugly and cold was beginning to take shape. I felt a chill creep over my skin that had nothing to do with the winter air outside. It was the chill of a terrible, dawning suspicion. A mother's intuition is a powerful, primal thing. It's a quiet hum beneath the surface of everyday life, a sixth sense that screams when something is wrong with your child. The image of my son, Michael, alone in that dim room with his cup of instant noodles, was more than just a sad picture. It was an alarm bell, a siren wailing in the deepest part of my soul. Jessica's excuses, once so plausible, now sounded like thin, brittle lies. The carefully constructed facade of the devoted wife was crumbling, and I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that I had to see the truth for myself. I couldn't rely on phone calls and filtered updates any longer. I had to go. Robert, I'm driving up to Columbus tomorrow. I'm going to cook a week's worth of meals for Michael.
Is everything all right, Helen? You sound.
I don't know what I sound like. I just know I need to see my son. The next morning, I packed my car with coolers full of homemade soups, stews, and roasted vegetables. Real food, nourishing food. The 2-hour drive felt like an eternity. Every mile that passed, my anxiety grew, twisting into a hard knot of dread in my stomach. I didn't call ahead. I wanted to see the truth, not a staged performance. I let myself in with the spare key they'd given me years ago. The silence that greeted me was the first red flag. The house, which had always been filled with the scent of fresh laundry or something baking, was still and stale. And it was a mess. Dust motes danced in the slivers of afternoon light, coating every surface. A stack of mail teetered on the entryway table. In the living room, old newspapers and magazines were strewn across the coffee table. But the kitchen was what made my breath catch in my throat. The sink was piled high with dirty dishes, some with crusted food still on them. The trash can overflowed with greasy takeout boxes and empty pizza cartons. It was the kitchen of a person who had given up. And there, on the sofa, covered by a thin blanket, was my son. He looked even worse than he had on the video call, his skin almost translucent, his breathing shallow. Michael, honey, it's me. His eyes fluttered open, and for a moment, there was confusion, then a flicker of shame as he glanced around the messy room.
Mom, what are you doing here?
I brought you some real food. My God, Michael, what is going on here? Where are all the casseroles and things I sent up with Sarah last week? I went to the refrigerator. It was nearly empty, save for a carton of milk, some wilting lettuce, and a few bottles of beer. My containers of homemade food were nowhere to be seen. I asked you a question. What happened to the food I sent? He wouldn't meet my eyes. He just stared at his hands, looking like a lost little boy.
I guess we threw it out. It went bad.
Went bad? I just sent it. And this house? Jessica isn't even cleaning? What about the money I sent you? The money for your care? He remained silent, a stubborn, miserable look on his face. He was protecting her. Even now, he was protecting her. I was cleaning out the foul-smelling trash when the front door opened, and Jessica walked in. She was dressed impeccably, her hair and makeup perfect, but she stopped short when she saw me, her eyes widening in surprise. And then I smelled it, the faint, unmistakable scent of wine on her breath.
Helen, what a surprise. I didn't know you were coming.
Clearly. I was just asking Michael where all the food I've been sending has gone. He seems to think it just vanished. And this house, what on earth has happened to it? She sighed, a put-upon, theatrical sound, and dropped her purse on a chair.
Honestly, Helen, I've been so run off my feet. Between my work, the kids' college stuff, and Michael, I haven't had a moment to myself. He doesn't have an appetite for that heavy food anyway.
Heavy food? It was chicken soup. He's wasting away to nothing on takeout and instant ramen, and you're telling me my soup is too heavy. He looks like death, Jessica. The politeness in her voice vanished, replaced by a sharp, defensive edge.
Oh, and you think a little soup is going to cure him? I am with him every single day. Do you have any idea how exhausting that is? I have needs, too. I can't just stop living my own life.
Living your life? What about the promises you made? What about my son's life? And what about the money, Jessica? All the money Michael earned, all the money we sent you. Where did it all go that you can't even afford to hire a cleaning service or buy proper groceries? That's when the mask didn't just slip, it was ripped off. Her face hardened, her eyes turning to cold, angry slits.
You have no right to ask me that. My finances are my business. You think it's cheap raising 2 kids and sending them to college? You're his mother, not his accountant. This is my house, and I won't be interrogated in it.
Just then, my daughter Sarah walked in, having planned to meet me there. She took one look at the scene, the messy house, my furious face, Jessica's defiant stance, and her jaw dropped.
What is going on here?
Your sister-in-law is explaining why my son is starving in a filthy house while she's out enjoying afternoon wine.
Stay out of this, Sarah. This is between me and your mother.
It stopped being between you and my mother when my brother got sick. What the hell is wrong with you?
Get out. Both of you. Get out of my house.
We left. I was shaking with a rage so profound it left me dizzy. In the car, I told Sarah everything, the money, the ramen, the lies. My daughter, my practical, clear-headed girl, listened in stunned silence.
Mom, this is worse than we thought. We can't just guess what's going on. We need to know.
What can we do? He won't say a word against her.
There are ways, Mom. People use them to check on caregivers, on nannies. It's a tiny camera. Smaller than a button. We can hide it in the living room. We can see what really happens when they think no one is watching.
The idea was deceitful, an invasion of privacy. But my son's life was on the line. The woman in that house was not the Jessica I knew. She was a stranger, a hostile, angry stranger. We were past the point of politeness. A few days later, Sarah and I drove back to Columbus. We bought a tiny camera at an electronics store, so small it looked like a screwhead. We went to Michael's house under the pretense of dropping off some of his old photo albums. While he dozed on the couch, Sarah, with practiced calm, tucked the tiny device into the spine of an old book on the bookshelf, its minuscule lens aimed directly at the living room sofa. That night, back in my own quiet house, I logged into the secure website Sarah had set up. The live feed flickered to life. For hours, it was just an empty room. Then, I saw them. Jessica was pacing, her arms crossed. Michael sat slumped on the couch.
When are you going to give me a divorce? I'm done, Michael. Done.
I told you, no. We are not doing that to Liam and Chloe.
Oh, stop hiding behind the kids. They're adults now. The truth is, I haven't loved you for years. I stayed for them. I did my duty. Now I want a life. He loves me, and I love him.
He? My blood turned to ice in my veins.
Don't you dare bring him into this.
Why not? So you can just waste away and keep me tied to you out of pity? I won't do it. I've given you the best years of my life. Just sign the papers. Let me go.
Never. Over my dead body.
I thought that was the worst of it. I was wrong. The next evening, I watched in horror as a man I'd never seen before walked into my son's home as if he owned it. He was handsome, slick, with a cruel smirk on his face. He sat next to Jessica on the sofa and put his arm around her. Michael just watched them, his face a mask of impotent fury. Look, pal, let's make this easy. She doesn't want to be with you anymore. Can you blame her?
Get out of my house.
It's her house too. And soon, maybe we'll be changing the locks. Just sign the divorce papers. People get divorced every day, it's not a big deal. You're holding on to something that's already dead. It's pathetic.
You come into my home with my wife, and you call me pathetic?
Yeah, I do. A real man would let her go. But you're not much of a man anymore, are you? I snapped my laptop shut, my hands shaking, a low, guttural sound of pure hatred rising in my throat. The woman I had welcomed as a daughter, the woman I had trusted with my son's life, was not just neglecting him. She was torturing him. She was dancing on his grave before he was even in it. In that moment, the grief and worry I had felt for months crystallized into something hard, sharp, and lethal. This was no longer a family crisis. This was a war. And I had just found my weapon. Rage is a potent fuel. It burns hotter and cleaner than grief. As I stared at the frozen image on my laptop screen, that smug man with his arm around my daughter-in-law in my son's home, I felt the sorrow and fear of the past few months burn away, leaving behind a core of pure, unadulterated fury. There would be no more quiet suffering. There would be no more secrets. Jessica had built her life on a foundation of lies, and I was going to bulldoze it to the ground. But first, I had to arm my soldiers. I had to tell the grandchildren. I called Sarah. My voice was steady, devoid of the tears and panic she had heard before. It was the voice of a general on the eve of battle. Sarah, I need you to get Liam and Chloe. Tell them it's an emergency. Bring them to their father's house. I'm on my way. It's time they knew everything.
Mom, are you sure? This is going to destroy them.
Their mother is destroying their father. The truth is a cleaner wound. Get them. I drove back to Columbus, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. I walked into Michael's house to find him on the sofa, just as he always was. But this time, I didn't see a victim. I saw the reason for my war. When Sarah arrived with Liam and Chloe, their faces were etched with confusion and worry.
Grandma, what's going on? Aunt Sarah said it was an emergency.
Sit down, both of you. There's something you need to see. Something you need to know. They sat, glancing nervously between me, their aunt, and their silent father. First, I want to ask you a question. How do you see your mother? Chloe answered immediately, her voice soft.
What do you mean? She's our mom. She's wonderful. She works so hard. She's always been there for us.
Liam nodded in agreement. The innocence of their words was a knife in my heart. I see. Now, I need you to watch this. All of it. And I need you to be strong. I opened my laptop and placed it on the coffee table. I pressed play. I watched their faces, not the screen. I saw the initial confusion melt into disbelief. I saw Chloe's hand fly to her mouth, her eyes widening in horror as she heard her mother demand a divorce. I saw Liam's jaw clench, his whole body going rigid as that other man, that stranger, walked into their home, into their sacred space. When the video showed him taunting their father, a single tear traced a path down Chloe's cheek. Liam just stared, his expression hardening into a mask of cold fury. When it was over, Chloe was openly sobbing, her body shaking.
Dad, is this real? That man, and Mom. Dad, what is happening?
But it was Liam who moved. He slid off the couch and knelt before his father, his head bowed.
Dad, I'm so sorry. We should have seen it. We were so wrapped up in school and our own lives. We didn't see how much you were suffering. I'm so sorry.
Chloe turned on Michael, her grief mixed with a daughter's anger.
Why didn't you tell us? We're your children. Why would you let her do this to you? Why did you suffer all this alone?
Before Michael could answer, I delivered the final, devastating blow. Because he was trying to protect you. And because he's sicker than he told you. He doesn't just have a liver problem. Your father has end-stage liver disease. Without a transplant, he could die. The room fell into a stunned, horrified silence, broken only by Chloe's ragged gasps. The full scope of their mother's betrayal was now laid bare. It wasn't just infidelity, it was cruelty of the highest order, inflicted upon their dying father. Michael finally spoke, his voice a raw whisper.
I'm sorry, I didn't want you to be hurt. I wanted you to have your mother.
Liam looked up, his eyes burning with a fire I recognized as my own.
We don't want her. We want you.
In that moment, our broken family forged a new, unbreakable alliance. The secrets were out. We were united. Now, it was time to fight back. Sarah, ever the pragmatist, was already on her phone.
The man in the video, his name is Richard Peterson. He's a local property developer. And guess what? He owns the building where Jessica's preschool is located. He's her landlord.
The audacity of it was breathtaking. It was a sordid, textbook affair. Then that's where we'll start. We'll hit them where they're most vulnerable, their reputations and their wallets. Chloe, wiping her eyes, sat up straighter.
There are local mom groups on Facebook. Huge ones. I can write a post. I won't use our names, but I'll tell the whole story. About a beloved local preschool owner, her affair with the landlord, and her sick husband at home. They'll know exactly who I'm talking about.
Good. That's your front. Liam, you and I will handle the other. The next morning, Liam and I stood on the public sidewalk in front of Jessica's Little Learners Preschool. We held a large, hand-painted sign. The letters were stark and bold. It read, "The owner of this preschool is having an affair with her landlord while my father dies of liver disease. Is this WHO you trust with your children?" The effect was immediate. Parents, rushing to drop off their toddlers, slowed down. They stared. They whispered. Phones came out, and people started taking pictures. A few parents, after reading the sign, turned around, buckled their children back into their car seats, and drove away. Soon, Jessica burst out of the front door, her face a thunderous mask of rage.
What do you think you're doing? Are you insane? You're ruining me.
She marched up to Liam and, without a word, slapped him hard across the face. A collective gasp went through the crowd of onlookers. Before I even knew what I was doing, I was between them, my face inches from hers. "You lay another hand on my grandson, you evil witch, and I will tear you apart right here on this sidewalk."
He's my son. You're poisoning my children against me.
You did that all by yourself. Now get back inside before you embarrass yourself further. She saw the crowd, the phones, the looks of disgust on the other mothers' faces, and retreated back inside, slamming the door. We didn't move. An hour later, a sleek black car pulled up, and Richard Peterson got out. He stormed towards us, his face red with anger.
"You need to pack up this little circus and go. This is private property. You're harassing my tenant."
I stepped forward, my voice ringing out for all to hear. "Oh, look everyone. It's the landlord, Richard Peterson. He's the man who comes into my dying son's home to sleep with his wife. Is this the kind of man you want owning property in your community? A man who preys on a sick family? An adulterer with no shame?" He blanched, looking around at the sea of disgusted faces now staring at him. He hadn't counted on a public confrontation.
"This is slander. I'll sue you."
"Go ahead. I have video. I'd love to play it for a judge." Humiliated and exposed, he sputtered for a moment, then turned on his heel, jumped back in his car, and sped away. We stayed all day. By the afternoon, Chloe called. Her post had exploded online. It had been shared hundreds of times. The preschool's phone was ringing off the hook with parents withdrawing their children. We had won. We had taken a wrecking ball to the life Jessica had built on her lies. That evening, we were all at Michael's house, me, Sarah, Liam, and Chloe. We were functioning as a family for the first time in months, Chloe gently coaxing her father to eat some of my soup. There was a knock on the door. It was Jessica. The rage was gone. Her makeup was smeared, her shoulders slumped in defeat. She looked at all of us, her family, now united against her. She fell to her knees in the doorway.
Michael, please. I'll end it with him. I'll do anything. The preschool is ruined. Everything is ruined. Please. Just give me one more chance. Please, forgive me.
Of course. Here is a more detailed and expanded version of Chapter 5. The sight of Jessica kneeling in our doorway was surreal. It was a grotesque mimicry of that day, decades ago, when she had knelt in our sun-drenched living room, a young woman asking for our blessing to join our family. Now, the sun was gone, and she was a desperate, hollowed-out stranger asking for forgiveness she hadn't earned. The love I had once felt for her had long since curdled into a hard, cold pity. She looked past me, her gaze fixed on Michael, her voice a thin, reedy sound that was swallowed by the heavy silence of the room.
Please.
She sobbed, the tears looking theatrical and self-serving. I made a mistake. A terrible, horrible mistake. It's over with him, I swear. I'll do anything. The preschool is gone, everything is gone. Don't take my family away from me. You're all I have left. Her words hung in the air, a plea for a mercy she had never shown. Before Michael, exhausted and frail, could muster a reply, Liam moved. He positioned himself in the doorway, a young man a few inches taller than he'd been a year ago, yet seeming a foot taller in his resolve. He was a human shield, protecting his father from the source of his pain.
You're not sorry you betrayed him,
he said, his voice devoid of heat but chilling in its finality. You're just sorry you got caught. You're sorry your little plan blew up in your face. You're sorry you lost. You stood on that sidewalk and you slapped me for telling the truth. Do you remember that? My own mother, hitting me because I dared to defend my dying father. That's the memory I have of you now. Chloe, her face pale but her eyes clear and steady, came to stand beside her brother, forming an unbreakable line. We don't know who you are anymore, Chloe, she said, her voice trembling slightly but firm. The mother we loved wouldn't have watched our dad waste away. She wouldn't have let him eat microwave dinners in the dark while she was out with another man. She wouldn't have stolen money from our grandparents. That woman is gone. You're just someone who looks like her. We don't have a mother anymore. My daughter Sarah, who had been standing by the fireplace, finally spoke, her tone sharp and pragmatic. What exactly are you asking for, Jessica? For us to erase the last year? For Michael to forget you brought your lover into his bed? For the kids to unsee that video? Forgiveness isn't a magic wand you can wave to make the consequences of your actions disappear. Sarah, each statement was a nail in the coffin of her hopes. Jessica's gaze flitted between her children, her sister-in-law, and me, finding no sympathy, no weakness to exploit. Finally, she looked at Michael. He had been watching his children, and in their fierce, protective love, a spark had returned to his weary eyes. He had been trying to shield them from a truth they were now strong enough to master. He saw that his suffering alone had not protected them, it had only prolonged the agony. He looked at the woman on the floor, the cause of it all, and when he spoke, his voice was not angry or hateful, but simply empty.
The kids are right. It's over, Jessica. Your choices led you here. Get up, and get out of this house. We have nothing more to say to you. Don't ever come back.
Her face crumpled completely then, the finality of his quiet words more devastating than any shouted rage. She had expected a fight, a negotiation, a dramatic scene. She had not expected this calm, unified, impenetrable wall of a family that no longer included her. She scrambled to her feet, a choked, ugly sound escaping her lips, and fled into the night. As the door clicked shut behind her, a profound silence descended, a quiet that felt, for the first time in a very long time, like the beginning of peace. The days that followed were a methodical and righteous demolition of the life she had built on deceit. We hired the sharpest divorce attorney in Columbus, a woman named Eleanor Albright whose reputation preceded her. In our first meeting, she listened to our story, her expression unreadable, and examined the evidence, the video, my bank statements, Sarah's timeline of events. "This isn't a divorce," she finally said, a thin, satisfied smile on her lips. "This is a tactical extraction. We will ensure Mr. Peterson regrets the day he ever heard the name Michael Miller." And she was true to her word. The legal battle was not a battle at all, it was a rout. Jessica's infidelity and documented financial deception left her with no legal or moral high ground. The judge awarded Michael the house, the vast majority of their joint assets, and all of his own retirement accounts. Jessica walked away with her car, a small, court-mandated settlement, and the crushing weight of her own choices. Her beloved preschool, already a toxic brand in the community, was liquidated in bankruptcy. I drove past it once, months later, and saw a "for lease" sign on the lawn, the cheerful painted animals on the windows peeling and faded, like a happy memory that had rotted from the inside out. We pursued Richard Peterson with the same relentless focus. Our lawsuit detailed the emotional distress and the malicious nature of his actions. His legal team tried to paint it as a simple affair between consenting adults, but Ms. Albright masterfully presented the video of him in Michael's home, taunting a terminally ill man. The jury was appalled. We won. The settlement he was forced to pay was substantial, but the real victory was the public judgment. His name was tarnished, a permanent stain on his reputation as a community-minded developer. Justice had been served, but these legal victories felt distant and academic compared to the real war we were fighting. Michael's health was in a perilous decline. The cirrhosis was relentless, and the doctors informed us that without a new liver, his time was dwindling to a matter of months. He was on the national transplant list, a faceless name among thousands, and the wait felt like a death sentence in itself. It was Liam who became our miracle. Having secretly gotten himself tested, he called a family meeting. He stood before us, nervous but resolute, and announced he was a perfect match. A wave of hope, so fierce and blinding it was almost painful, washed over me. But Michael, from the depths of his armchair where he spent most of his days, refused with what little strength he had.
"No, absolutely not."
His voice was a hoarse whisper, but his eyes were firm. "I will not let you do this. You have your entire life ahead of you. I won't let you risk your health, your future, for my mistakes. This ends with me." Liam knelt before him, taking his father's thin, trembling hands in his own. "Dad, what mistakes? The mistake of working punishing hours to give us a great life? The mistake of trusting the woman you loved? None of this is on you, Liam," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I remember when I was 8, I fell out of the oak tree in the backyard and broke my arm. You carried me a half-mile back to the house, and you never once complained how heavy I was. You just kept saying, 'I've got you. I've got you.' You've been carrying us our whole lives, Dad. Now it's my turn. Let me carry you this time. This isn't a risk, it's an honor. Please, let me give you your life back." In the face of such pure, selfless love, Michael's resistance crumbled into tears. The surgery was scheduled. Those days were a blur of terror and hope. I sat in the sterile, silent waiting room with Sarah and Chloe, the ticking of the clock on the wall marking out the longest hours of my life. We prayed, we shared stories, we held each other's hands, a small, frightened tribe clinging to hope. Finally, the surgeon, a kind-faced man who looked impossibly weary, pushed through the double doors. He pulled down his mask and smiled. "It went perfectly," he said, and the three of us collapsed into each other in a wave of sobs and relief. They're both in recovery. Your son and your grandson are two of the strongest men I've ever had the privilege of operating on. 2 years have passed. The scars have faded. Michael is a new man. The transplant cleansed not just his body of disease, but his spirit of despair. He left the cutthroat world of finance and now works from home as a consultant, his days filled with peace instead of pressure. He has gained back the weight he lost, and his laughter, a sound I feared I might never hear again, now fills his home. Liam, fully recovered, is a senior in his architecture program, his future as bright as his spirit is generous. His bond with his father is a profound, unspoken thing, forged in the crucible of life, death, and rebirth. Chloe, inspired by the nurses who cared for her father and brother, is at the top of her class in her nursing program, her innate compassion now honed into a powerful skill. As for Jessica, she is a ghost, a whisper from a past we have survived. After the divorce, her affair with Richard fizzled out. A man like that is drawn to success, not desperation. We heard she moved out west, working a series of menial jobs. About a year ago, she managed to get Chloe on the phone. Chloe listened for a long time as the woman on the other end cried and pleaded and made excuses. Finally, Chloe spoke, her voice not cruel, but clear and final. "I think I understand, Chloe," she said. "You were unhappy. But what you did, it was more than a mistake. It was a choice, over and over again, to hurt people who loved you. We have healed. We have moved on. And we did it without you. I truly hope you find some peace, but you can't look for it here. Goodbye." She hung up and blocked the number. It was the final, quiet act of closing a door that would never be opened again. Michael insisted on paying me back every single dollar I had given Jessica, despite my every protest. "It's a debt of honor, Mom," he'd told me, pressing the check into my hand. "You invested in a lie to save me. Let me repay you with the truth of my new life." I was visiting him last week. I sat on his back porch, watching him and Liam tossing a football in the golden afternoon light. Their movements were easy, their laughter effortless, the picture of a father and son who had walked through the valley of the shadow of death and emerged, hand in hand, into the sun. I thought about the farm, about how sometimes a field has to be burned to the ground, all the weeds and pests turned to ash, before new, healthy life can grow from the soil. Our family had been through the fire. We had lost a part of ourselves, but what grew back in its place was stronger, truer, and infinitely more precious. A house built on lies will always crumble to dust. But a family, a true family, built on the bedrock of sacrifice and unconditional love? That foundation is eternal, and for that, I will spend the rest of my days in gratitude.